Nico. Obviously, with the international break, we've had a chance to work with a much smaller group of players, but a motivated group and one that I think has put a lot of work in. Had some time to, get away and recover for some guys, trying to maintain fitness for some, trying to bring some back off of injury, and overall, in terms of everybody coming back, that's going to play a role on Saturday. Everyone is here, and we've stressed to the group it's not about who isn't here and able to help us. It's about the group that is here and finding a way to improve, get a result, and recognize that we all have the same feeling here, whether it's the players, the staff, the fans. We're in a 4-game unbeaten streak that feels like anything but that, and we're not happy and satisfied. So we know we have to be better. We have to improve, and it starts on Saturday against a really strong Miami team that clearly also will be missing some players, but is very well coached and has some real talent still within their group and have found ways to win, in the absence of some players as well.
Thanks, Jim. We can start with questions in the room.
Yeah, so long discussion. I would say several phone calls and back and forth with the league and pro and different things. The reality of the situation is that we had no chance to win, unfortunately. While I don't agree with the call, because of as they use the term, endangering of the safety of the player, the call because of an injury goes from a yellow card to a red. In my mind, it went from yellow to red a little too quickly. I think there could have been a moment of calmness from Ted Uncle to maybe get video or take a look at it. But once the injury happens, and I don't agree with this part of things either, I don't want any player to ever get injured. Make no mistake about that. But because Edwards does have an injury, the messaging that I get is that does factor into things. So long story short, the panel would not have sided with us and almost had no shot. So it's almost a non-starter. I don't agree with that, but that's the reality of the sport. And Jack will unfortunately miss. A great player will miss because of, look at a tackle that, yes, Jack makes a mistake when the ball's rolled out to him, right? But I think anywhere on the field, if that happens in the penalty area, as an example, I don't think it would be a penalty or even a foul. And some would even argue that Edwards, again, I feel terrible that he got injured and it was severe. But some would argue that he's just as reckless on the challenge as well. And Jack's the one that pops up quicker. So maybe he looks guilty. So I've looked at that play a million times. We've had a million conversations. We've pushed on our end as hard as we possibly could. But all the feedback that we got was aligned. And I understand, I understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand that the rules are in place and that one goes against us.
So at that point, with being in,
yeah, hurts.
The natural replacement, I assume, is Nathan, and it got rid away.
Yeah.
But just based off of who's here and who's played there in the past, is it safe to assume that Nathan's going to have a more centralized role in defense this week? And how do you prepare for that, knowing what Miami has in attack? Yeah,
we have a young center back in Makanya that is working hard with the Union 2 in games and improving. We have the option, like you mentioned, of Nathan, who's played center back for us and for the national team before. Obviously, Mbaizo and Nathan give us a great, competitive, two guys that are pushing for that right back spot. So, we'll make a decision that makes the most sense based on the opponent and some of the things that they do well. We anticipate a good striker like Campagna to start for them, who is a starter anywhere else in this league, just happens to play with a team with Luis Suarez on it, and maybe doesn't get the minutes that he normally would, but he'll obviously be a handful. So we have to have a pairing that is on the same page and knows each other well and takes away the good things that Campagna does, and that'll be our decision to make. That's as much as I'll give you on that one.
What have you seen from electric? Say 22 signing.
Yeah.
Playing yet almost a year. What have you seen from him since that he's close?
Yeah, look, you see passes the eyeball test in terms of size, physicality, intensity, good defending. Has to try to eliminate the little mistakes that happen in training sessions when he trains with the top players. Look, there's been stretches of Union 2 games where he's been really good. He's had some mistakes in those games too that he's going to work on, like any young good defender. So he's close. He'll be up for selection. It'll be a close decision. But he's still a player that we believe in very much, but has to get sharper and sharper. And the only way you do that is getting minutes with the second team, training with us, going through those mistakes, learning, growing from them, and trying to get better each day. So improving, but still has work to do.
With someone like that, there's obviously been mistakes from your veteran center back
Sure.
at times this year. I wonder how you kind of weigh that of, the guys in front of him are maybe making more mistakes than they have in years past, and getting punished for it, maybe at a rate higher than in the past. How does that kind of factor in, and does the mistake, do you measure the mistake proneness of a young player like that differently when it's a center back as opposed to maybe some other positions?
Absolutely. I think, young players do get more the benefit of the doubt a little bit more in terms of, that they're going to make mistakes and it might cost you a point or two here or there. I think we've shown in the past when the time's right, we will put guys out on the field, but we can't just hand it to them either, because then you lose the whole hierarchy of, you have to work hard to get your spot. We can't just hand things to people. So the guys that still deserve to play will get the minutes. I think the players, this season, yes, we have conceded far more goals than we're used to, but that's a team thing too. That's obviously injuries play a huge role in that. The way we're conceding, where we're conceding from, we need to tighten up and be better. And it's not just one set of players; it's the whole group. So I would say that young players do get the benefit of the doubt when they make mistakes. You have to accept that and live with it a little bit more. But at the same time, you still have to earn those minutes, because if you just say you're young, we'll just hand it to you, you can ruin a young player too. And I think you guys have heard me say that too. If you put them out there before they're quite ready for the first team minutes, and I say it all the time, it's really hard to become a starter in this league. Make no mistake about that. The time, effort, intensity you have to put in and day out to get to the top and stay in the lineup is really, really challenging in this league.
How do you manage the absence of Daniel? There's a few options you can
Yeah.
go to, Jeremy being one of them. Maybe David Vasquez could be in the conversation as well. Is it a game by game basis on who fits that and what formation you're throwing out there, or do you have a kind of a hierarchy of who's going to fill that number 10 spot?
Yeah, for each game, an opponent will choose, maybe a different formation. In this case, you have David Vasquez coming back from the national team, and he's done a good job with the youth national team. That is a under-19 national team, not the top national team. I think everybody understands that. So he's doing better in training, but still has a big step to take. Obviously you mentioned Rafa, who's taken a lot of reps at the 10 spot. Has played as a central midfielder for us, if you remember, in Portland, a little more in a flat 4, so he can do a job there. Obviously, now when you factor in opponent, you obviously know Sergio Busquets is that 6 that you need to get around for Miami. So I think that the formation, we'll have to choose, but he's a big part of their success, and we have to have someone that can get around him and be tough there. Quinn Sullivan's another guy who I think has the versatility to make plays and possibly do that role as well. Look, it's no, I'm stating the obvious here. We're going to miss Daniel Gazdag, right? Just like Miami's going to miss Lionel Messi. There's no two ways about that. But this is an opportunity for other guys to step up. Whoever we decide, we're going to need to be ready. But the 3 names that I said, should be in the 20 most likely this week. And again, they'll be deserving of whatever minutes we get them. Some of them might play 90, some might need for 1 minute to close out the game. But you could see us have to use all of them in some capacity.
What's Julian's status?
Yeah, Julian is healthy. Julian is here in training fully this week. Union player, and one that is our best goal scorer. And I think he's shown that through the years. And he's had a good week of training, fully healed from the ankle, and he's ready to go for us.
All right, we can switch over to Zoom. Jonathan Tannenwald.
Thanks, Nico. Jim, a couple things. First of all, to continue the conversation about Daniel Gazdag's absence, does Jack McGlynn's role potentially evolve and change a little bit in these next couple of weeks?
I think everybody's role changes. You know, it's the same, Jonathan, when we lose Andre Blake and we lose the best goalkeeper. Everyone's role is a little different, and everyone plays a little bit different when he's not on the field, and that's natural and normal. So when you lose, you know, your leading goal scorer this season and a guy who does a lot for us defensively, and I wish Hungary all the luck in the world, but he's going to be missed. You know, so everybody has to step up. Certainly, Jack now. Maybe has to get a little higher, maybe take a little bit more risk, Jonathan, with shots from distance that we continue to push him with. He's the guy who, you know, I don't call him a 10, but he has the passing range to unlock a defense like a 10. Maybe he does it from a little deeper position, but we might have to ask him to be a little bit more aggressive and fill maybe more of a central role sometimes, because when he's on the ball playing through the lines, that's when we're at our best. The unfortunate part is he won't be passing to Daniel Gazdag, you know, so all these things weigh in, just like Mr. Alba won't be passing to Lionel Messi this week, who he loves to combine with. And it's not dissimilar. Both teams aren't at full strength. The schedule is what it is. We have to make the most of it. And again, I see this as more opportunity to bring out maybe others' skills, Jack McGlynn being one of them, and having him step up and do more. You know, that's the reality of a season. When guys are absent, others have to step up and do a job. And when you lose top players, you need to find other ways to make plays and ultimately score goals.
And with Andre Blake, he's on Jamaica's Copa roster.
Yeah,
What's the union's medical staff's assessment of where he is and his ability to play?
Yeah, look, I think he's slightly ahead of schedule, which is a good thing. You know, I can't speak to exactly when he's going to return to play. I saw Andre this morning, smile on his face, happy. You know, he's such a big part of our success. I think we all know that and recognize it. The little things that he does through the past 5 seasons, at the beginning of games, making saves that nobody remembers when we go on to win games 3 or 4-0. He plays a key role in everything that we do here. So we know our margins are razor thin. We know Andre is important. We want to get him back as soon as possible. Oliver will continue to grow and do a good job in his absence. You know, and Andre, whether he's available for Jamaica, I can't answer that. I think I'd be talking out of turn, really, because he's obviously been selected by them. And I don't know how quickly he's going to be ready. But all things are positive here. He's, I'd say, slightly ahead of schedule, but that doesn't mean he's going to step on the field tomorrow and be out there, you know, doing all the things that a dynamic goalkeeper needs to do: kicking, jumping, throwing, all those things. He still has some time for sure.
So then when would he, if he's in Chester now, when would he leave and go back to Jamaica, assuming he goes?
And that's the thing. He's going to be here until he's healthy, you know, so I don't have the exact date that's going to be. I know you're trying to add up the weeks and you want me to give you an exact timeline. It would be a miracle if he plays as early as these Jamaica, when Jamaica plays, I would put it that way. But he is Andre Blake, so we'll see.
Jonathan Seagal.
Thanks, guys. Hey, Jim. Jonathan here from MLS Soccer. Wanted to ask on the younger end of the roster, we've been seeing Kevin Sullivan playing more and more in Next Pro, and I know there's that benchmark of the end of July, youngest debut in the league and such. How far is that? What light can you share in terms of fan expectation and a player who obviously has big hopes and dreams in this league, and a lot of people are eagerly anticipating when that debut could arrive, and is it potentially as soon as this weekend?
Yeah, look, Kevin's been doing a great job in training. Again, getting acclimated to new teammates, obviously playing with your brother. And when I see them combine on the field, sometimes it is a little surreal for me, just watching it and taking my coaching hat off to see it. It's really exciting to see. And he's done a great job, has improving every day in training. He takes information well. We're not trying to overload Kevin with a ton right now. Just let him be himself, put him in a position on the field where he does great things. Kevin's a playmaker. You know, wherever you put him, whether it's at his 10, a second striker, even tilted out wide in the diamond, he's doing a really good job for us. Having said that, he's picked up a couple knocks and little injuries here, so we have to be smart about how we progress him into the first team and first team minutes. He's with the second team right now, trained with us at the beginning of the week, but we'll get another game with the second team. And when the moment's right, we certainly will be brave, and when it's earned and deserved, we'll call him up, and he'll be a part of the first team in some capacity on our roster. I would say, you know, sooner rather than later, which is our goal. But it has to be at a time where he deserves the minutes. He doesn't just all of a sudden instantly get to pass certain guys because of who he is and how young we signed such a great player. So really excited to see what the future holds for Kevin. I think our fans are going to love watching him play for the years to come. The sky's the limit. I do still say a generational talent, one that can really change the game by himself. And look, you know, one that has such a quick first step is something that, you know, maybe, you know, we need to unlock a defense, to go 1v1. It's a hard thing to do in our game, is to beat the first man. That changes the whole picture of the game in front of you. And Kevin certainly has that, whether it's at the U17 level, the second team level, and now the first team level in the training sessions that we've gotten to work with Kev. He's only going to get better and better each and every day. When that moment's right, I can't give you the exact date, but I'm optimistic and hopeful that it is this season, certainly.
Is there something that you're hoping as a coaching staff, like, hey, we want to see fill in the blank and then we're comfortable? Or is it more just like a conversation continue between player, coach, staff? Like, what informs that switch eventually flipping?
Yeah, I think every person and player is different, right? Because whether you go back to Mark McKenzie, who got his debut because of 2 injuries and a red card to center backs and went out there against David Villa, and I was terrified for him, but he did a great job, you know, and held up against the world-class striker. For Brendan Aronson, I was terrified to throw him out there against Atlanta and in front of 50,000, and he scores a goal. So what I have learned is the more you trust these young kids, they're the least likely to let you down. You know, because they have been in the club for a while, they'll run through a wall for you as players in the academy. They have a bond with the other kids that they've grown up playing with. They have a bond with their teachers and their staff members at the school that do an amazing job with them. So they're in the environment and they have a feeling of not wanting to let people down, whether that's the coaches, whether it's the fans, whoever it is. It's not dissimilar to myself, where I always say it means a little bit more to me because I am from this city, you know, because I'm from Philadelphia. I don't want to let down the fans, and you have a little bit more of a feeling of ownership. I think it's the same thing with academy players, and more times than not, when you give them their debut, they make you look good, and they do it in a way that is brave, is fearless, and what we stand for. So Kevin has all those qualities that I just talked about, as does David Vasquez and CJ Olney and Neil Pierre and guys that are coming up. So we have this great wave of young kids coming. Look, is it easier when now the group around them is super stable and more confident too? For sure. That's a real part of this too. And we've had real stability and confidence for 5 seasons. And right now we have to get that confidence back. And I think when that confidence in the group comes back, it becomes a little bit more easier and it gives them a better chance of success when they have guys all in great form playing around them, if that makes sense. I think you guys understand what I mean with that. So again, when that time comes, we'll certainly be brave enough to put them out there and believe in the youth like we always do.
John Zapata.
Can you hear me?
Now we
Gotcha.
can. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Sorry, AirPods weren't working. Jim, just real quick, I wanted to talk about the bye week for a second. Because I know in the past, you guys in bye weeks, you've gotten together with your analytical team and kind of focused on areas that could use some improvement. I was just curious if you can comment on anything you guys discussed over the bye week with the team.
Yeah, sure. We are very analytical as a group, and we look for things that we can tighten up and improve. One thing that comes up is we've conceded far too many goals from outside the box. We're at beyond a record-setting trend, and that is not just goalkeeping. That is now how do we get out and close the ball and prevent shots from distance. So that's something that we've talked about. Guys really taking the last step and getting a block in and preventing shots from distance, because we've been hurt a lot by them this season. So that's maybe one thing that comes up. Certainly on the offensive end, I think we've scored enough goals. Are there things in the final third that we can be a little more decisive with? Absolutely. Did we leave a few goals against Montreal, I think, and Toronto that we could have tightened up? Yes, certainly could do a little better there. So, getting into that assist zone, good hard cutbacks behind the defense on the ground are things we've worked on the past couple of weeks. And then again, our foundation will always be our defense. We get our chances and our offense and our transitions from good team defending. You guys have heard me say this 1,000 times. So it starts with now communication from the goalkeeper, the back four, our six, our eights, our 10, all on the same page, so that we're defending well. And when we do that, there's no doubt about it. Our strikers get goals, they get chances. We want that to continue. So a couple weeks have been good to work with smaller numbers for sure. Some days only 8 or 9 guys out there, but that can be good because you can really dial into the details and the specifics with each individual player that maybe you can't do when it's 24, 25 guys. So we've, I think, utilized this week very well, as well as we could. And now we get our tests, right? Our test is Miami on Saturday, quick turnaround, and good Cincinnati team on Wednesday, and then another home game against Charlotte. So an important 3-game stretch for us. We recognize that, and we know we need to get back on track to winning at home.
Thanks, Jim.
Jillian?
Thanks, Nico. Hi, Jim. Ty Baribo played roughly 90 minutes between Hungary and Belarus over the break. What are your thoughts on how he played, and if anything stood out to you, and how Israel used him that you might consider?
Yeah, they had a tough result, but I thought Ty, for having not played 90 minutes in a while, did really well with the time that he got. So again, important for him to stay positive, to keep pushing. At certain moments, we're going to need him during this stretch of games. He's been, like I said, doing well in training, and there will be an opportunity for him when he's called upon to help us and help the group. He's been extremely professional, did a good job with his national team, and now he comes back here. Today was his first day back, and had a good session here. So we'll find ways to get Ty on the field and utilize him, and hopefully he can help us get some results.
Final question will go to Michelle Kaufman.
Thank you. Hey, Jim, it's Michelle Kaufman from the Miami Herald. I want to ask you about Inter Miami. How are they different? I mean, it's obvious when you're losing Messi and Suarez, 2 guys who have 24 goals, it's going to be a different team. How are they different? How do they play different? How do they look different? Like the Vancouver game, for example, neither one of them played, and Busquets didn't play. I don't know if you look for things in that type of a game to prepare. How is this team different without those 2 guys, and how can your team capitalize on that? Thanks.
Yeah, look, I think first and foremost, they're very well coached and they're organized. And sometimes when the star players go away, that is when teams are most hungry, right? So everyone will talk about Messi and Suarez not being there, and of course they're world-class players, and probably the best player of all time, at least in my opinion, in Messi, and Suarez, a world-class striker who scores goals everywhere he goes, and will help obviously Uruguay in the Copa America. Rojas, for me, though, is another player that doesn't get talked about. That's away with Paraguay. That is an incredible attacking player as well. So it's a team that has a lot of good pieces. But having said that, now the players that are there, they still have an Alba, a Busquets, who can can hurt you and win the game by themselves. They have a Campagna who is a starter everywhere else in the league. He just happens to be behind again, a world-class striker in Suarez. Has scored a ton of goals in our league. He's real dangerous, great with his hold-up play, and is ruthless in the box. Robert Taylor, for me, is underrated as well in the attack and can hurt you so many different ways. So it's still a really, really great team. We'll be missing some players, no doubt. They'll be missing some players as well. But it's about the 3 points, and they're going to push for it. And we'll try to take away their best attacking players as best we can. So yeah, sometimes in the absence of the stars, the others get a chance to step up. That'll be the same for us and them. And we expect a really tough game.